Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Joanne O'Brien. I am the Vice President of Agile Collaboration within CEM Forum. And our intent today is to take you through the first of our 3 series of webinars, which is to give context to our Action Week event, which will be held in Lisbon in February 9th through 13th. The slides and a recording will be made available after today's presentation, and questions should be entered into the question panel and we will answer those at the end. So today's webinar is focused on Customer Centricity Program, and that will be led by Rebecca Sandell, our Senior Director of that program. So these webinars are really to help people to understand what are the key programs that we are covering at our Action Week event, okay? And we will cover the Action Week structure. It is a new design for the event, and it covers basically the we're going to use an agile structure to the event, and what that means is that everybody at the event will be fully participating in the event. We're structuring the event differently in order fundamentally to gain more effectiveness from our Action Week event and to ensure that all of our members who choose to come and give time to the event get the absolute maximum value that they can for the event. Okay, I'm just going to change my slide here. So we have a number of teams that we're going to be involved with the program. Just one moment. We have a number of different teams that are involved with the program, and I'm just going to share these teams now. And you will see this organized by each of our strategic programs. So under Customer Centricity, you have CEM, Analytics, Metrics, and Revenue Management. And what I'm sharing here today is part of our detailed agenda, which you can find on our Action Week website, and I'll provide the link for that at the end of the presentation. Each of the streams you can see is organized by not just the name of the program, but also what are the proposed deliverables that they intend to cover at the event, and this to give focus and context for each of those streams. Now these deliverables, proposed deliverables, have been identified by the program leads working with many people, many different companies that they are already involved with the programs, but also as part of a strategic workshop that was held with our board and our executive committee, and also when people go out to meet with different member companies. These are continuously evaluated to ensure that we're focused on the right things. So today, Rebecca is going to take us through the customer centricity to cover each of these areas and what the intent is for Action Week and future events really as well, running out into 2015. You will see here as well on this column, Join Project, and this is an important element that everybody who comes to the event, because you are participating in an industry collaboration activity, we're bound by CEM Forum IPR guidelines, and what that means is that you need to be formally joined a specific project. This is the link that you need to click on in order to join a particular project, okay? And you will find this on the CEM Forum Action Week website. This is the agenda at a glance website, and here's where the more detailed view can be downloaded. And it is from that Excel that you can click each of the links for any of the programs that you choose to get involved with. So it's particularly important that before you come to the event that you join the projects that you intend being a part of, because it is not, CEM Forum staff who approve you onto a project. It is, in fact, the IP contact of your member company who will approve you to work within a particular stream. Okay, so that's a particularly important preparatory activity that needs to happen before you come to the event. So just to give you a flavour of the event, this event, as I mentioned, is organised a little bit different. We have each of the programs or each of the streams operating as a particular team. So there will be a significant emphasis on participants actually committing to being an active participant of a particular team over the course of the week. That's not to say that they would not be invited into other teams based on their expertise, but they would in fact choose a single home team that they will spend most or commit most of their energy to for the course of the week. And the purpose of that is to ensure that each of the programs optimize or maximize the potential of achieving their primary outputs that has been agreed with the industry. Okay, just moving to the next slide. So as I mentioned, this will be an agile, iterative event where all of the participants, it is most certainly not a conference, it is very much a participant event, will choose to become part of a single team where they feel they can add the most value, and you should select that based on the deliverables and the program descriptions as outlined on the summary agenda. And we are adding these webinars in order to give you significant more detail on a per program basis. So at this point I'm going to hand over to Rebecca. Rebecca is the Senior Director of our Customer Centricity Program.
Thanks, Joanne, and good day to everybody who is on the call. Thanks for coming to listen to what we're working on in TM Forum in our Customer Centricity Program. Before I get started, I'd like to just mention that everything I'm going to talk about today was developed by and continues to be developed by our TM Forum members. So it's people like you who come and form teams and work on projects and come to our Action Week events, or maybe are just a user of what we produce and provide us some feedback on what you thought about it. So it's really a community, it's really a collaborative type of output. I am starting to use the term crowdsourcing more and more to talk about what we do in TM Forum. So have that in mind as I go through what I'm talking about today, because as I said, there's this spectrum of just people who are using the best practices that we have all the way up through collaborators and leaders to develop new best practices, and try and think about where you might fit on that spectrum. And if you want to be a participant, have in mind that we do have this Action Week event coming up that Joanne described. So Joanne, if you could go to the next slide. Joanne mentioned that we've got our 3 strategic programs that will be really the focus of our event Action Week and are really the focus of mostly everything we do in TM Forum. So we've got our Agile Business and IT program, we've got our Open Digital program, and then I will focus on our Customer Centricity or Customer Engagement program. And that is the program that I run in TM Forum. So let's talk about why that's important. Next slide, please. So if you look at why should you be customer-centric anyway? You know, there's really a direct linkage between a great customer experience and increasing profitability, okay? If you think about a great customer experience, that means you've got happy customers who will be more loyal to your brand, who as a result will spend more and give you more tolerance in terms of any problems that they have. They're more likely to recommend you to friends and family, which means they're less likely to churn. That's going to give you a higher margin and going to increase your profitability. So a great customer experience really impacts a lot of areas in a service provider's operations and directly affects the bottom line. And that's really important to keep in mind whenever you're thinking about customer experience projects or programs, that it's not just about saving money or getting the customer off the phone as quickly as you can. It's about creating that great experience to drive the bottom line. Next slide, please. So before I jump into our best practices, I want to talk first about a document called a how-to guide that we have in TM Forum. If you're just getting started, oh, sorry, there's a problem with that slide and it advances on its own. forgot to remove it. Anyway, I'm sorry. So we have this how-to guide that follows defines what's called the 6 principles of customer centricity. Because that slide wants to advance on its own, what I would recommend to you is to go to the TM Forum's website in our publications area, download that how-to guide. It's a quick read, but it's a really great way to just get a baseline understanding of what the key things you should be thinking about in any organization to drive customer centricity, from the management being behind supporting it, to being data-driven, to giving authority and empowerment to people who are on the front line. There's really some great concepts in there. Quick read, definitely recommend you to take a look at that from the publications area of our website, and that is free to download for all TM Forum members. So that's kind of the foundation of our customer centricity program, those concepts. Now let's jump into details. In our program, we have got 3 main focus areas. We've got customer experience management, we've got big data analytics, and we've got metrics. Those are the 3 areas I'm going to talk about today. And what really is the focus of our program? In that box up there, drive customer centricity throughout an enterprise using data-driven approaches, that's really important, throughout the whole life cycle, from initial contacts and impressions to product offerings to integrated, seamless, and personalized experiences across all channels. So that across all channels is a really important concept. You want that experience to be very seamless, regardless of whether somebody is interacting with you on the phone, in person, on their mobile device, on their laptop, etc. You want that to be a seamless experience. So that's the foundation of our program. We've got those 3 areas: customer experience management, big data analytics, and metrics. And then you'll see the logos of some of our leaders. Those are the companies that have stepped up and are driving our direction for our best practices in these 3 areas. Next slide, please. So now if we look at what our key themes are for 2015 that fall out of that high-level direction, we've really got 3 areas that we're talking about. The first one is using customer experience as a differentiator. As I said, it really drives profitability, but at the same time, customer experience is really a way to be recognized above and beyond your competitors. That it's a frontier where you can continue to expand the way you're interacting with your customers and continue to differentiate from what anyone else in your market is doing. The next one is propelling customer experience with analytics. There's so much data collected in service provider organizations, there's no reason to act on hunches or act on feelings anymore. We really want to be driving the way we prioritize customer experience projects, the way we identify which customers are satisfied and not satisfied. We identify who might be churning with analytics. So we really need to be driven by analytics in service provider organizations. And then the final key theme for 2015 is customer centricity in the hyper-connected and virtual world. Things are changing very, very quickly now with Internet of Things, everything getting sensors, machines talking to machines. Things that used to be hardware are turning into software with virtualization. Whole pieces of networks are going to be changed out in the coming years, and that is going to change the customer experience. Things that used to be hardware that are now software, well, services can maybe be delivered in a matter of minutes instead of a matter of weeks. So what does that mean to the customer experience? It's going to be different. And with all of the information that's coming from sensors in M2M implementations and Internet of Things implementations, that is going to impact the customer experience. So we really need to think about that. We really need to be conscious of how the customer experience is changing with all of these macro changes that are happening in our industry. So those are our themes for 2015. And you will see as we go into the programs that we are definitely actively addressing those. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to jump into our customer experience management area. This is just one graph out of research that we did late last year in the customer experience management area. This is about enterprise customers and what's the primary objective of their CEM programs. Increase customer satisfaction, increase revenues and differentiation, right at the top. 3 things that I've already talked about on the webinar today. That's just one example. Again, I highly recommend for you to go to our publications area of our website. This is about, I think, a 60-page report or something of primary research working with service providers. A lot of great insights in there, written by Rob Rich, who is an industry analyst for many years in this area. And again, a great resource if you're thinking about what you should be focusing on in your CEM program. So please take this as foundation material and go take a look at it. And if we can go on, Joanne. Now I am going to walk you through the library of best practices that we have today in TM Forum for customer experience management. For anyone who hasn't been to the CEM section of our website, you want to go to the standards area and you'll see it on the best practices list. If you go to that page, you'll see a section of the page on best practices. That's where you find everything that's listed on this page. We've got a tremendous set of resources for our members on our website. Again, these were developed by the industry, by our members. They're this crowdsourced model of people coming together and adding their thoughts and insights into a set of best practices. So you see there, we've got a guidebook, we've got a maturity model, a life cycle model, we've got over 500 metrics, we've got an approach for implementing CEM projects, and we've got an omnichannel best practice. A lot of content that you can download from our website today. And I am going to go very quickly through these, mostly because I'd like to get on to what we're doing next. So, Joanne, if you could go on to the next slide, please. The first thing I'll talk about is our maturity model. If you are just starting a program in customer experience management, or if you want to make changes in customer experience, a really good thing to do is evaluate yourself. What are we good at? Where do we have some opportunity for improvement? Our maturity model can help you with that. So it's got 6 dimensions: strategy, organization, people, process, KPIs, and systems down the left side. And then there's criteria in the document that gives you key capability indicators that you can use to evaluate yourself to determine where you are in this continuum of level 1 through level 5. This is a snapshot of the model. The document's got many pages of information to help you assess yourself, and this is really a great place to start and a great way to have the conversation about customer experience in your company. Again, go to the website and download it. Free and open to every member in TM Forum right now. Next, please. The next thing I'll talk about is our life cycle model. It's really important to understand the touch points that you have with your customers. So we have created a common language for having those conversations in your company. And if you're a supplier of technology or supplier of systems or services, it's a great way to have a conversation with your customers about how you can help them drive their customers' experiences in a positive way. So we've got 3 levels of detail in our model here: the buying, using, sharing, and then they iterate down into different levels of the model. And then if you go to the next slide, please. But really the important thing about having a life cycle model, apart from defining the touch points that you have with your customer, is that you can map journeys using this life cycle. So you can think about who your key customer segments are, you can create personas for those segments, and you can map journeys of the customers across the life cycle. It's really a fantastic way to put your feet in the shoes of your customer and really understand what they're experiencing by creating personas and mapping their journeys. So this is a really important tool that you can, again, download from TM Forum. And as we are continuing to think about this in more sophisticated ways, you also can start to think about the different channels that the customers might use at different parts of the journey and how that would impact their experience and how you can create a seamless experience for them across those channels. Next, please. So next, I would like to talk about our metrics. So I just talked about the life cycle, but we have also got, related to that life cycle, a series of over 525 metrics. So across the top there, you'll see the 9 stages of the life cycle in the middle level of detail of that life cycle. And down the side, you'll see 3 kinds of metrics: per customer metrics, per enterprise customer metrics. Those are metrics specialized for enterprise or corporate type of customers. And then we've got functional metrics, so things that aren't related to any one customer but relate to how well you're doing in general across the organization. So it's basically a matrix, a 9x3 matrix of metrics, and the 525 are distributed across those 27 boxes. So I know nobody's going to use 525 metrics at the same time, so think of it like a dictionary. If you are going to be thinking about, improving your customers' payment processes with you, go into the document, look at the metrics that we have in the pay section. It's a great way to start with a foundation of metrics that have already been created and already been reviewed by members of TM Forum and the industry in general. So that's our metrics. If you could go to the next one, Joanne. Thank you. The next thing is we have created an approach for implementation of CEM projects using a use case methodology. And it's actually, I think of it like a big filter. So there's so much information out there in TM Forum about many, many topics, very, not only CEM, but very broad sets of topics. So we have taken a number of templates and put them in one place, called them an implementation use case, and they basically provide a way to think about filtering all of that information down to what will help you implement that particular challenge that you're wanting to address. So right now we have a template and we have one example, and to give you the example, it is about increasing service awareness. So we have looked at what's the business purpose and business value of increasing service awareness. If you want to increase service awareness, what business processes will be impacted, what information flows will need to change, what applications will be impacted. How would you measure success of increasing service awareness? What metrics would you use to measure that success? And what data sources would you need to actually create those metrics? And then what set of actions and flow of actions would you need to take in order to increase service awareness? So we've got, again, this approach, which is a template, and we've got one example, but I think it's proving to be a really powerful methodology to think about implementing CEM projects and programs in your companies. So take a look at that also on our download page in the CEM area. Next one, please, Joanne. And the next item I'll talk about, and the last item in this list, is our Omnichannel best practice. We just started working on this project a few months ago. We have got a best practice that lays out not only the imperatives of Omnichannel that I've got listed here. These are kind of the truths of Omnichannel on this slide, right? The customer is going to choose their channel. They are going to channel hop. They are going to feel like it's just about them. And that it's about the individual. You've got to have the right data on the right channel. It's got to be delivered with context that makes sense to the customer, and the customer is going to have many journeys that they could possibly take, so you need to prioritize how you think about those journeys. Those are what we call the imperatives of Omnichannel, but if you go into that document, you'll find we've also got a set of kind of required things that you would need to do in your company if you were going to implement Omnichannel. And then we've got a detailed list of kind of mini scenarios or requirements, detailed requirements of implementing Omnichannel, like a customer should be able to start looking at a new device online and then go into the store and trial that device and have that be seamless. The pricing should be the same. Maybe in the brick and mortar they knew that the customer was coming and they had the device ready for them to trial. Any kind of interaction across channels, we've got a list of I think we're at about 40 right now requirements, but this is an area where we'd really like to grow. So that's a quick summary of our maturity model, life cycle model, metrics, implementation guide, Omnichannel. big list of everything that we've got in our CEM area that you can get to today. So if you look at that, that's what everything I talked about is in that lighter shade box on the left. Now on the right, we have a lot of work to do in 2015. We have a lot of projects that we are kicking off right now, and we will be working on at Action Week. And this is where I would like to ask all of you to get involved in one level or another to look at what we've got today, provide your feedback, get actively involved in a project, come and join us at Action Week. None of these things happen without participation of our members, and we're thinking about some really interesting things. So if you look at 2015, Omnichannel is right at the top of the list. That's really important. We are going to take that best practice that we created and go much more in depth with a guidebook and more requirements. We're going to create a maturity model for Omnichannel. I think this will be some really interesting work in 2015 and starting right now. We are going to do more of these implementation use cases using that template, not only for very kind of straightforward CEM challenges that we know of today, but also the more complex things like how is Internet of Things affecting the customer experience and what happens when the network and the services become virtual. So we are going to use that template to really drive a wide range of implementation use cases. We are going to take the ideas behind the lifecycle journey and omni-channel and all of these pieces together and think about CEM return on investment. If you are going to invest in projects, which projects are the most valuable to your company? So we are going to think of all of these things together and create a calculator for CEM return on investment. We are going to do a CEM futures type of an activity and create an ebook around CEM in a hyper-connected world. So that will be a thought leadership activity that we are kicking off in the next couple of weeks. And we are also going to work on doing a new kind of approach to thinking about the 360-degree view of the customer. I know that's kind of the holy grail. In a lot of companies, how do we actually get a 360-degree view? We are going to tackle that, and we're going to make it even harder by thinking about how is the 360-degree view of the customer impacted in an Internet of Things environment where you probably have many partners in the value chain and everybody's got one little piece of what the customer is experiencing in their organization. How do you bring that together? And how is the 360-degree view of the customer impacted in a virtualization scenario? So a lot of really interesting things. Anybody who's interested, drop me a note. My email was at the beginning and at the end of these slides, but it's rsendell@tmforum.org. I'm easy to find on TM Forum website or Google or whatever, so find me. And I would love to hear from you if any of these topics are of interest to you. Okay, data analytics. So let's move on. Again, in data analytics, we did research. So we have got another document that you can go to in our publications area and download primary research from our analyst, Rob Rich. And this is an interesting slide, I think, because it talks about the planned investment areas in analytics in the next 2 years. And right there at the top of the list are some pretty customer-centric things. Pardon me. We have got customer support and care as by far the highest level of investment over the next 2 years related to analytics, which is great to see. It aligns really well with our theme of being data-driven in the customer centricity area. Personalization is really important as well. And then we get down to network management and service management. Those are two things that, while they might sound like they're kind of down in the nuts and bolts management, those are known to be two areas that impact the customer experience more than anything. So anyway, interesting research. I just showed this to you as a teaser to encourage you to go and download that report and take a look at it. So now let's jump into the best practices again. In our data analytics area, we have got a few things to talk about. We've got our reference model, we've got a set of use cases, a set of building blocks, and an approach called the business value roadmap of how to use all of those things together. So if we start by looking at the reference model, this is, I like to think of this as a common language for data analytics. You know, if you're going to think about and talk about data analytics in your company, it's good to have a set of terms and a set of concepts to form the foundation of those conversations. So if you look at this model, this is one page, but in the document that it comes from, the Data Analytics Guidebook, it's probably 40 pages, this model. So there's a lot of information in there about all of the pieces of an analytics solution, ingesting the data, managing the data, data analysis, and all of the pieces that are incorporated in each of those areas. It also talks about a data repository, which is a hot topic in our data analytics group right now, as well as governance, things like privacy, also a very hot topic. So this model, again, it's a common language. It's a great way to think about, do we have everything that we need to have in our company ready to go? What are the areas that we can continue to improve in our overall approach to data analytics? So that's the reference model. And again, go to the website, go to the standards menu. Under the best practices list, you'll see the data analytics area, and you can get all the documents from that web page. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is our use cases. This is actually one of the favorite things that we have in TM Forum from my perspective, because I think it adds a huge amount of value to anybody that is using our library of use cases. So in this sense, when I say use case, when I talked about use cases for CEM, when I say use case in this sense, similar idea that it provides a filter and it provides a great place to start if you are thinking about implementing a data analytics solution. So what am I calling a use case in this sense? Well, we've got the business case, we've got a user story, we've got a set of metrics. What are you going to measure to know if your analytics solution is actually improving things? What processes are impacted when you implement this use case? What data do you need to implement this use case? Who are the actors in this use case? And what life cycle stages in the customer's experience will this use case impact? So next slide, please, Joanne. This is teeny writing on this slide, I know that, but we have 51 use cases today. If you go into the library, and I'll show you an example of one in a minute, but if you go into the library of documents, you can download this document that's got all 51 use cases in the document. Each one is a few pages, so they're not, you know, they're not huge, but if you page through that document, you will see there are 51 ideas for implementing data analytics in your organization. If you're a service provider and if you're a supplier, it's a great way to get product ideas, to have a conversation with your customer about what's important to them. We have one member who does that now. He says, whenever I go into a customer, I bring this list and I say, let's talk about what's important to you. And then he uses the data analytics specific use case to talk about how they're going to implement that solution. So it is a great repository. You'll see we've got the use cases in sections. In the top left there's a series on personalized offers. On the bottom left, there's a series of use cases on proactive care. In the middle on the left, there's some about product introductions and product development. There's certain use cases about proactive care and personalized care. If you go on the right side, you'll see an area about churn risk on the top right and retention. You'll see a few about network-related analytics with fault location and congestion management. And down on the lower left, you'll see, or sorry, lower right, you'll see some that are related to risk management type of areas like revenue assurance and fraud management. The ones in red are new. They were just released in December, and we have got more in the pipeline, so this will go up to 54 and hopefully 60 very quickly in the coming month or two. And at Action Week, one of the big things we'll be doing is continuing to build out this library. We will have a couple of workshops to continue developing use cases. You can develop a use case in about a half a day, and so we're going to have multiple groups working on developing use cases, again, in some of the new areas like Internet of Things, e-health type of services, smart city, smart energy. So we're really expanding the footprint of these analytics use cases. So let's look at an example on the next couple of slides. I just pulled one from the document that is churn risk prediction. I'm not showing you the whole thing because there's also a whole business case that's associated with each use case, but this just gives you an idea of the kind of information that is in each use case. The horizontal comes from our business process framework. The business metrics and customer experience metrics come from a couple of our metrics documents. The CEM metrics come from that 27-box matrix that I showed you earlier. The customer lifecycle stage comes right off our customer lifecycle model that I showed you earlier in the CEM section. So this really gives context, right? If you're looking at churn risk prediction, here are some metrics that you're going to want to look at. Are you renewing, how many orders are you renewing? How many customers are you renewing? How many customer leave requests are you getting? Very specific metrics around churn risk. Great things to look at the reality of what is happening with your customers and churn rates. Go to the next page, please, Joanne. The other half of this use case tells a story about what's happening with the customers and why this use case is important. And then there's a list of data sources that are required to implement this use case. So again, there are 51 of these that you can go in and download right now to help you think about how to implement or priorities for implementing data analytics solutions in your company. Okay, next slide, please. The other thing we have a library of in our data analytics documentation is what's called building blocks. So this is the set of building blocks that we've got today, and they're really implementation oriented. You know, think about the idea that a number of those 51 use cases probably need location information. So one of these building blocks is geocoding. How do you capture location information and use it in a data analytics implementation? So that's the concept of the building blocks. It's an idea that we worked on about 18 months ago and built up this library. And we haven't done too much with it, but now members are starting to say, actually, they're using the building blocks and would like to start readdressing and building up this library. So we will be looking at that as part of 2015 projects. So speaking of which, if we can go to the next slide. Again, in the lighter column, I've got the summary of what's available today. And actually, at the bottom of that list, there's one thing I didn't mention on the use cases. We are now also starting to create what's called a privacy risk score for those use cases. As you know, with analytics, if you start to look at customer data, you could cross the line into getting past where customers are comfortable with a privacy level. You know, I will often say you could start to get creepy. So we have now a way to evaluate how much risk are you creating for your company around privacy by implementing this use case. It's a series of questions that you answer on a 1 to 6 scale, I think it is, and get a privacy risk score. So we just started doing that in the end of 2014, and we will continue to do that for all of our use cases in 2015. So in 2015, big emphasis on these use cases. One's for customer experience, one's around IoT services like eHealth and smart cities and smart grids, which are other projects in TM Forum that we will be working with to help them develop their use cases. Also, virtualization. What analytics do you need when everything starts to be software, not hardware? We really need to think about that from the beginning, not try and add that capability at the end. And also security. You know, that we've got some teams that are working on security, the virtualization team, and some other teams in TM Forum, and our data analytics group is going to work with them to define their top priority data analytics use cases around measuring security. We are also going to work on privacy risk scoring and another area of privacy dashboard, where the data analytics folks will contribute to working with the privacy dashboard folks to help them create their dashboard. And then also I mentioned that big data repository is a hot topic for us in TM Forum. We had a demo last year, at the end of last year at our event in San Jose, that explored the idea of if you were going to have a repository that was specifically for data analytics, and I'm not talking Hadoop clusters and I'm not talking data warehouses, I'm talking about something else that we are going to define so that you are not duplicating data all over the place. Many data analytics implementations would need deep packet inspection information, they would need call detail record information, they would need location information. How can you capture all of that, put it in one place, not put it in multiple places to make it as accessible as possible, as effective as possible, as inexpensive as possible. So new concept, there's a lot of conversation going on around that right now, and we will be doing another demonstration on that in our event in June. We're just kicking that project off. If that is a topic that is of interest to you, please do get in touch with me, because we are happy to have new people join that project and all of our projects. Okay, next one please, Joanne. So I'm just going to touch really quickly on our metrics. I've mentioned metrics throughout my presentation. I just wanted you to know that we have a single metrics repository in TM Forum for all of our metrics across multiple topics. You'll see we've got a set of business metrics, which are really a high level metrics that you can use to drive your business across operations, finance, and customer experience. It's a set of about 100 metrics to just take kind of the top level view. Then we've got much more detailed metrics for cable operations, around cyber ops, around fraud management, and the 525 customer experience management metrics. So these can all be found again on the standards menu. This time you want to look in the tools section and go to the metrics repository. In terms of metrics for 2015, we've got our 800 metrics I just mentioned. We are going to be developing new metrics across many areas, the same ones I keep mentioning: customer experience management, Internet of Things, and virtualization. We are also in the process of putting our metrics into an app. So you would get kind of this single snapshot view in a big spreadsheet of all of the 800 metrics, and then you could search, sort, and filter and download very easily from that app. So today it's a bit of a browsing exercise, but we want to make it much more user-friendly, and I just saw the app yesterday. It looks pretty cool and easy to use, so we will finish that up in 2015 and make it available. But the ultimate goal of that app is we will be adding a capability to crowdsource metrics. Right, if you're starting to use metrics, you might say, okay, I found 10 that are interesting to me, but I've got ideas for 3 or 4 more that I did not find. I will contribute them back into the list, and we'll hopefully go from 800 to, I don't know, 8,000 maybe in the future, with people contributing their metrics into the database. So again, tremendous resource. If I were a member of TM Forum, there's no way that I would develop any metrics without first checking in the TM Forum's metric library. So again, we have a metrics project. We would like members to get involved. We will be doing lots of metrics development all throughout 2015, but particularly at our Action Week, we're going to have a couple of metrics development sessions with our Internet of Things and virtualization groups that I think will be very interesting. Asking the questions, what do you need to measure to be successful? Let's be data-driven. So that is the summary of our CEM, data analytics, and metrics areas. Now let's just really briefly talk about Action Week. Joanne showed you kind of how things fit in into the big picture. I'm going to jump down one level of detail here and show you the agenda. So Monday we've got a series of cross-functional meetings with all of the different groups that we'll be working with throughout the week, including the Internet of Things and the virtualization project group. We're going to really be setting the stage. We're going to be talking about, let's take your top priority use cases and figure out the CEM impacts, the big data analytics that would be required to drive that use case, and the metrics. What will you measure around that use case? That's what we're going to do on Monday, is really say, what is it that we need to do? Then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we're going to do it. So it's going to be sleeves rolled up. We're going to get together and really interact across both groups of people that are interested in CEM, data analytics, and metrics, but also subject matter experts from the Internet of Things, virtualization, security, CEM areas. It's really going to be be an integrated activity across many groups for the week. So Tuesday, we're going to work on business processes. We're going to work on the ROI calculator. We're going to develop big data use cases. And I'm going to come back to the red items at the end. Wednesday, we're going to work on 360-degree view of the customer and Omnichannel. We're going to work on privacy, risk scoring. We're going to work on the analytics big data repository, and we're going to work on metrics for IoT and virtualization. And then Thursday, we're going to develop CEM use cases. We're going to do CEM metrics. We're going to do more business process, and we're going to do more big data use cases. So the colors kind of give you an idea. The orange are the CEM, the blue are the big data, and the green are the metrics. You see we've got a little of everything scattered through the week. Now the red I didn't really talk about today, the revenue management area, because we only had limited time, but I did want to emphasize that on Tuesday we are going to, and Wednesday we're going to have a 2-day session on revenue assurance, developing revenue assurance KPIs and the revenue assurance maturity model, among other things. And there's quite a few service providers coming to that. So if you are interested in that area or know anyone who's interested, I do encourage you to look into that or get in touch with me. And then on Thursday, we're going to work on fraud management, and we're actually going to do a bit of a workshop around a fraud management maturity model based on the revenue assurance maturity assessment tool that they've got. So that is what Action Week looks like. It's in Lisbon. We stay at a really fabulous hotel with great food that's not expensive because it's off-season. So we'd love to have you come and work with us on any of these hot topics. But even if you can't come, get in touch and we'll work together in our online collaboration community. We'll work together over phone calls. You can just give us feedback on any of the best practices that I talked about today. There are lots of ways to get involved and really take advantage of your TM Forum membership. So, Joanne.
Excellent, Rebecca. Thank you very much. That was wonderful. And do you have any thoughts on the level of expertise that people need to have to join your sessions on Action Week?
Yep, that's a great question. We welcome newcomers. If you've never been to Action Week, that does not matter one bit. We always welcome newcomers. And really, we welcome people with any level of expertise. You will be working in lots of the time you'll be working in small groups, so whatever your knowledge is, you'll be able to contribute it in that small group. So don't think, oh, I'm not an expert in CEM or I'm not an expert in metrics. If it's an area that's interesting to you, that's all we need. So no need to be, the biggest expert. Just come with enthusiasm and interest in these topics, and I think you'll learn from the people at the meetings, as well as getting a lot of good satisfaction in terms of contributing. So great question, Joanne.
And if people cannot attend Action Week, I recall you've had some Action Day activities. Can you tell people about that, particularly people who are, living geographically? It's going to be very difficult for them to attend Action Week. What other options have they for getting involved?
Yep, that's a great question. We started last year this concept of an action day, right? I just talked about the whole week of action. Well, think of just one day where we have interactive meetings and develop best practices on a particular topic. So we started that last year in the data analytics area, and we are continuing it this year. In February, we are having an action day in Dubai. I don't know if there's anyone from on the call who is in the Middle East, but we are having an action day February 5th in Dubai. We will be developing data analytics use cases that day, and in the course of a day you will go start to finish through the process of developing the data analytics use case and doing the privacy risk score for that use case. It's a one-day session. You go in the morning, probably about 9, you're done maybe about 3, and you will meet other TM Forum members, work collaboratively with them. Your work will become a contribution to TM Forum. At the same time, you'll learn a lot about how we develop our best practices and how to use our best practices. So we have that one in Dubai, and we've got a few others that are cooking for different geographic locations all around the world. We're going to have one in Australia in early March. The topic for that is still being determined, but you will also see these just cropping up in the calendar in many geographic locations in Eastern Europe. I've got ideas, Western U.S. Anyway, you get the idea that it's all over the place. And the idea is that you don't travel to these, right? It's meant to be for people who are geographically located near that event, and they can just take one day out, come, get to know some people, make a contribution, and learn something as well.
Excellent, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So just one final reminder, these slides will go out, and the link to the Action Week website is here, but it's also available directly from our website under the events page. I particularly ask people to pay attention to join in the respective project that they wish to be involved with over the course of the week. Basically, that will just make your activity much easier to manage on site, because you will already have IPR clearance to participate in the project ahead of attending the event. So that's one of the main things really, is that please do join the project of the streams that you wish to participate in. Okay, so there's someone here with a question. They're saying, I'm from Lisbon, but I'm not a member of Team Forum, but I would like to participate in one of the projects. The Action Week event is very much a member event, but I will reach out to you directly to discuss what your options are. Okay. So thanks everybody again. Tomorrow we will have a similar activity focused on Internet of Things, and with again particular emphasis on the 2015 roadmap and the activities that will occur during the Action Week event. And then on Friday at the same time we will have again a focus session on our Zoom project, that's Zero Touch Orchestration and Optimization Management under our Agile IT program, and that will be at 2 p.m. UK time on Friday. So thanks very much everybody for your time. I look forward to seeing you at Action Week or at future Action Day events like Rebecca outlined, or just get involved on Rebecca's programs by joining the Customer Centricity, CEM Metrics or Data Analytics projects. Thank you.
Thanks everybody.